What does PDA look like in adults? This is the second most Googled question about pathological demand avoidance, and I will give you my best possible answer based on working with hundreds of parents who identify as PDA autistic themselves. Okay, here is my very unsatisfying answer. It depends. It depends on a lot of things. I'm going to outline them for you. First and foremost, it depends on the degree to which they were accommodated, supported, and accepted as a child and teen. Second, it depends on whether or not there are co-occurring conditions, okay? So PDA is just one brain wiring type among many, and it depends on if there are other disabilities at play. Third, it depends on the degree to which they can construct a life in adulthood that aligns with their special interests and nervous system needs. So, for example, perhaps a professor who gets to engage in their special interest for their entire life, or an entrepreneur who has full autonomy and gets to be the decider in their profession. Fourth, what this looks like depends on the degree of self-understanding and self-awareness that the adult has, right? So it's one thing to be perceiving threat and then starting to equalize against another person without the conscious awareness of what's happening, right? So, this might look different in adulthood where you're trying to have a conversation with an adult PDA and everything you say is kind of like whack-a-mole. You're saying one thing that's sort of like guiding the conversation. There's a perceived loss of autonomy and they go adjacent to what you're talking about, and you can never actually get to the topic of conversation that you want. If you were raised by an adult PDA or who was undiagnosed, you as a child might have always been equalized against, and your parent might have had very fluctuating what looked like moods but were actually nervous system states. One last thing that I almost forgot. It depends on if the child teen was a more externalized expression or internalized the threat response and engaged in more freeze or appeasement behaviors of like scanning for the authority and seeing whether or not they're safe through that authority in like fawning and appeasement. So the latter of the two examples is much more well received in society because it's more compliant and pleasing to those around them. And so if there was an internalization of the threat response, it doesn't mean that they don't have the same struggles in adulthood and need accommodations. It's that they may have gone unnoticed in terms of like defiance and getting negative social feedback all the time from the oppositional behavior.